And welcome, everyone. It's Blonde here from the Vortex Energy Podcast at the Vortex Healing Centre here. And we've got another great episode for you with Irene Oram today here on the Vortex Energy Podcast, where we talk about all things spiritual and health. And very lucky to have Irene here with us today. Her specialty is health and spirituality. So you're in the right place if that's something that interests you. And today we're going to talk about her book, and she's got a few of them out, many of them actually. But today we're specifically going to talk about dealing with negative energies, and I would say negative entities as well, and what you should absolutely not do. So Irene was a healthcare provider for many years and a spiritualist, and has been working in this energetic space along with physical health healing for many decades. In her retirement, as she calls it, she's been busy writing, still speaking, and doing all kinds of engagements with this subject. And she is a leading expert in this particular subject of dealing with negative energies. So welcome, Irene.
Hi, Blonde. Lovely to be here. Thank you.
So what I would like to hear more about, I want to hear more about your history. When did you first start getting interested in the spiritual aspect of this type of energy work?
I had been aware of the term spiritualism from about my age 14, and my first recollection is my mother saying that she was going to put herself down on the census as a spiritualist, and I didn't know what a spiritualist was because it was not part of my upbringing. My response to that was, "Mum, you can't do that." And because, to me it was something pagan, or I just didn't know. Anyway, fast forward through 4 or 5 years, and I was in the Women's Royal Australian Air Force and in Darwin, and a group of us decided that we would have a séance. And so
as you do, right?
As kids do, teenagers. Yeah. Go figure. So we set out some Scrabble pieces on the floor, on the lino tile floor, and sat round and put the glass in there and had this séance. And the next morning at about 7:30, the phone rang. Now, that would have been 5:30, and my mum ringing me, 5:30 her time, 7:30 my time, and saying, "What the hell have you been up to?" Well, she said, "Do not do that again." I'm sitting down and writing, and I got 8 typewritten pages of why not to do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And in actual fact, one of the girls had in the group had a sister who had come through, and she had died in a car accident. And it was particularly upsetting for her.
Yeah.
And I didn't find out the full story until probably 20 years later. But it, as my mum explained to me, is that if you do that sort of activity without the shielding of the light of universal love, you leave yourself open to lower energies making contact, and that can lead to all sorts of dire things.
I think as a lot of people who are beginning on their spiritual path, they're experimenting with things, and they want to talk about love and light, and they don't realize there really is dark at the same time. It is out there. It really,
it's
not like
in the same way as it's in society. We have those that walk in love and light on the earth plane, and those that are not so full of love and light.
Yeah.
And when they pass on, they go the same place. They've just got a longer journey to get to enlightenment.
Right.
Yeah. So and sometimes as I found out in later years myself, the passings don't happen spontaneously. They get stuck. So
yeah, your book, and I highly recommend everyone read this book. It's called Don't Try This at Home, Dealing with Negative Energies by Irene Oram. And I think that is really, I understand why you made that the title versus, hey, how do you deal with negative entities or negative energies? Because it is that serious for somebody. You know, what can happen if you dabble in trying to fix something that it's not for you to fix, or you don't know how to fix it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if I'm doing this, as a spiritualist, I am not clairvoyant. So I don't actually see. I hear and I sense. And so I'm clairaudient and clairsentient. But if I'm doing any of this sort of work, to me, I want to see what I want to know what it is I'm dealing with. And if I can't see it, if I can only sense it or hear it, then I have somebody with me. I always have a team of people and have somebody who can see and describe to, and is willing to describe to me what it is that they're actually seeing. And so it's certainly not something to dabble in on one's own.
Yeah.
Simply because you're putting yourself in, it would be like confronting an assassin without a weapon.
Yeah.
or yeah.
To me, it's like you bought a little star, kung fu star thing that you see them on TV throwing it at someone and it kills the assassin, but you don't know how to do that. You have your little star, but you don't know how in the world you would protect yourself with a tiny little piece of something.
Exactly. And they've got a great big machete or something or other coming at you. So and when you suspect that there is a negative energy in a location or with a person, until you actually go into it, you don't know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So so my first experience was actually a friend who said to me, I'm a bit worried about my current boyfriend. And this was an older gentleman, and he had changes of personality. And
I think that to me is one of the biggest signs of something's really going on.
Yeah. And it's like, he was an absolute charming man. But then weird things would start happening. And so I got together with with a medium, somebody who had actually known my mother. And this was before I was, recognized myself as being much of a connection of anything. It turned out that, yes, he did have an energy attached to him. And it was somebody that had attached to him because there was a karmic connection there. And, the way that we dealt with it was the other medium actually took on that energy and channeled it, and I spoke with it. And he hadn't had much love in his life. And I didn't, I was intuiting what to do rather than knowing. And I said to her, so, and thinking, okay, so who's going to be there that might love him, that will, that he might go to? And I said to him, can you see your mum? Is your mother there? And his response was, oh, that bitch.
Yeah, that's a bad sign.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, okay. And I said to him, so was there anyone in your life that really loved you? And he said, yes, my grandmother. And I said, so ask her to come to you. And he did. And with that, she took him through to the light.
Yeah.
And but I couldn't have done it without having somebody else there
Oh, to talk it
to
through.
talk it through. Yeah, to actually channel that person. And
Yeah.
yeah, but also the added protection of having somebody else there, the extra energy and love that you bring through.
Yeah.
Just like there are other ways that you can shield and protect people, but that actually the aspect of moving them on, if they don't want to go, you can't make them.
Yeah, I found that really fascinating in your book. A number of recalcitrant
Yeah,
negative
exactly.
energies, like, I'm not going. I mean,
Yeah,
again, I think they don't usually want to go. They're like, they found a host. They're like, this is fine. I'm happy. They're happy where they are. I mean, even
yeah,
though they're not really happy, they're not where they should be.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I can remember before I really started doing anything, developing as a medium or anything like that. Mum and I were in a performance, a stage performance, in a beautiful old building on the south coast of WA. And somebody in the theatre group said, "Oh, we think that there's something hanging around in the back passageways of this building," and it had been an old bond store back in early colonial days. And so Mum and I went out there, me not being able to do anything, but Mum, full of confidence in her guides, and had a chat with him. And he was actually one of the people who had built the building. And when he passed, he didn't believe in God, he didn't believe in heaven, but he thought, it would be nice to just live in that architecture. And there he was. So there was nothing malevolent about him, like he didn't interfere with anything, but just people felt the presence.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be, as innocuous as that, that you just, just somebody, well, I don't think there's anything else. So, if I've got to go somewhere, well, that's where I'll go.
Yeah.
And then the process is convincing them that, there is actually something more, and that they can go, they can move.
Yeah. So did your mother instruct you or help guide you through this process?
No, not at all. She had passed on by the time, I actually realized that, there was a need for this, really. I mean, despite the gentleman in the depths of the bond store, I didn't realize how frequent it actually is. That, and I'm not saying, that everybody trips over it every day, but increasingly people are putting themselves in situations where there is altered states of mind, I guess. So, and that can be, artificially induced, or it can be, it can even be a mental issue, or it can be, they've had an accident and in a state of unconsciousness. And when that happens, particularly, I think if it is artificially induced, so we say, by imbibing substances, then you're putting yourself in a position of where it's like, if I leave my front door open and the light on, showing that, anybody can walk into my house and take anything, can I really blame somebody for doing that?
I'd love to dive deeper into that, because I have this conversation a lot with people, because we spend a lot of time, as we're awakening, to open up to so many things and open our heart up. How do you explain to people when and how they need to close back up?
Okay.
Not leave that door open.
Not leave that door open. Okay. So if I teach this at all, I teach it like, you can, there are several ways, and I start out teaching people to do it consciously long form. So it might be thinking about opening the chakras and opening each one as starting it out as a bud and watching it open. So you get a red bud for the base chakra, etc., and all the way up, and each one opens. And then when you've finished your meditation or whatever it is that you're doing, you go through and you consciously close.
Yeah.
So you put them back to the bud.
Yeah.
You can then reduce it to a shortcut. It's like, maybe going down in a lift. You're on the or going up in a lift to start with. So you're opening up. I'm on the ground floor, and then I'm just going to go straight up to the 7th level.
Right.
There we go. We're on, we're up there,
Yeah.
and then go back down again. So you're back on, or opening a blind. I'm open for business.
Right.
Close the blind at the end of it. So there is something that actually, and if you like, sometimes shopping centres are terrible places at times. You can pick up all sorts of energies in shopping centres. So it's really good to close down before you walk into the shopping centre.
Great advice.
So,
Great advice.
But whatever the routine is, consciously do it at times when you're surrounded by a whole heap of people. Do it, but consciously do it, open and close before you do meditation. We talk about the white light, surrounding yourself with the white light. Well, it's interesting. My son at one stage was he would have been in his 30s or 40s. So it was well after my mother had passed, and he felt as though there was something around him. And I had said to him, well, surround yourself with, I'd always said, surround yourself with the white light. And he was in a particular space where he just couldn't make sense of that. And it was like, well, white light, well, what is the white light? And he said, as clear as a bell, he heard my mother's voice in his ear saying, for light, read love.
Yeah.
And that's what the white light is. It's a white light of loving protection. And so, just asking for it is enough for it to be there.
Yeah.
But you have to ask, because we have free will.
Yeah. And I love that analogy of helping people to understand it is light equals love. Love equals light. The two are the same.
They are. They are. They're certainly. And as words, they're interchangeable, but as energy, they are the same. Yeah, definitely.
And I'm just wondering if it's not more meaningful to people who see things easier, or who are more auditory or need to feel things, or more empathic, are people more visual, more, kinesthetic, if it's the feeling of love or if it's seeing light that is what resonates with each individual. It's just.
Yeah. I don't know that there's a lot of difference. I mean, I guess I feel loving energy, but I also mentally have this, what I've described it to people, who felt the need for protection, to surround yourself with something like a lead bell that goes over the top of your head and around under your feet. But it's because lead, shield is a shield.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about my lead shield is love can pass through it.
Oh, nice.
Love can go either way.
Yeah.
So it shields me from what's negative, and I can walk around totally oblivious, and somebody saying to me, "Did you feel that?" No, I didn't feel a thing.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's where I am. It's like, it's that lead shielding that Yeah. Well, what is it? Was it a Faraday cage?
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's my version of a Faraday cage.
That's a riot. Yeah. I think we
Yeah.
all need a bit of that these days. So,
Yeah.
a question for you: when you talk about negative energies, do you also consider the same process with negative frequencies, maybe coming from a cell phone tower or from an electrical giant tower or something?
Well, it's interesting because as I look out here, I see almost in the backyard of my house next door. So let's say 2 backyards over.
Yeah.
There is a Telstra phone tower.
Yeah.
So when I realized that I had bought a house next to that, I immediately got an organite shield.
Yeah.
And so I have that in my house. And I don't feel it impacts me. But I have had a friend staying here for a couple of weeks over Christmas, and she went round and turned everything off. Like she disconnected my internet even, and it's like because she felt it, and yet she's come here and used the internet to do Zoom calls and stuff like that. So but because she was here full time, she really felt the energy. And I don't know, I haven't actually asked her whether she was feeling it from the tower or but I had to get the next door neighbour to come in and crawl under the desk to just reconnect the internet.
That's pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah. So so I am aware that that it's and that's the in kinesiology we use a term called geopathic stress.
Yeah.
And so that is more the energy. Though energies can come naturally from the earth as much as they can artificially. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
So,
I think people don't realize how frequent that is. Also, it's not even necessarily a specific vortex, but it could be minerals that are under the ground. It could be a million other things that are happening with that particular spot.
Yeah, well, and it can be flows of underground terrestrial water flows.
Sure. Yeah.
And I have a gentleman that I know in Western Australia who divines those flows, and he will also he's discovered that basically the majority of people who end up with particularly cancer would quite often have water pooling underground in their sleeping area, or a flow of water.
I have not heard that one. Yeah,
which is negative, flowing under where their bed is.
So does he redirect it, or what is his?
He does. He has a process that he goes through to redirect that energy or to divert the flow. Yeah.
Well, just wanted to touch base on how would you approach somebody who feels like, oh, there's a negative entity, or they're worried about their partner or their child, or something's going on, or something's going on with them. What would you recommend they do? What are some of the things someone can do?
Okay. The first thing that they can do is actually send love to that person, but be aware that depending on if it is an entity that is attached to them, that they may actually be feeding that energy as well.
Yeah.
So and I have to, because of my belief, I have to come from a point of prayer.
Yeah.
And asking for love and protection but not just for your own loved one, but also for the energy that is misguided enough to have attached themselves.
Yeah.
My mother actually had 2 experiences in her life of being possessed by a spirit. One lasted for many years and at times was a comfort to her, and other times, just about drove her insane, because would drag her down at times when she really needed to be boosted up. But the second one was when Mum had developed as a medium, and it was somebody who had been part of a group in spirit who were working with her to provide healing for others, and so working with a group of spirits to help other spirits in their in their growth, to actually bring them in light and love and raise them up. And something flipped in this particular guy, and he decided that it would be really nice to drive the bus instead of be a passenger.
I'll just stay here.
And because my mum was a writer, and so she used to get dictation and straight into her typewriter, and so I actually have her conversation with her guides of what happened there. And it was explained to her that there was no indication that it was going to happen, no warnings at all, no red flags, and there was nothing they could do. And
so the guide said there was nothing they could do?
The guide said that because of free will, there was nothing they could do. They could not intervene. And these are, like evolved spirits that we're talking about here, not just, somebody who's just stepped over the portal. But they said that Mum did the only thing, without knowing it, she did the only thing that could have made a difference. And she prayed directly to God, not for herself, but for this spirit that was actually trying to possess her. And the words in the dictation say, it was amazing to stand aside and watch, because what happened was a ray of golden light came down and simply lifted this energy away.
I haven't heard golden light taking away these energies.
And so that was and it was explained to Mum that was the only thing, because it was only God's energy that could intervene. And by praying directly to God, not to any intermediary, but directly to God, for God's love to come to that spirit, it was answered. And so that's when I say, okay, you're concerned for your loved one who you think, is in danger. Try from the depths of your heart to share that concern for the possessing or that's there as well.
Would you recommend saying it out loud, or this is something someone might even do saying it to themselves, or do you need to say
it? No, I don't think you need to say it to yourself. It's just like, as you would normally pray, it's like, if I'm sitting here and I'm looking out of the window and the beautiful sunset or the colors in the sky or the whatever, standing on your deck looking out at the ocean, and I just say, thank you for this. And I say it in my mind. I don't necessarily say it out loud.
Well, that's what I mean. It's not necessarily to the person who you believe has an entity attached. You can say, right. To not be as antagonistic.
Exactly. Prayer by all means. Explain to the person to try and close themselves down if if your loved one is has maybe been meditating or taking drugs or alcohol or something to alter their state of mind, consciously, or conscious actions to alter their state of mind, then explain to them the danger of that. If they don't want to listen, there's not a lot you can do about that. There are other things that I say in the book that, when I say don't try this at home, I so things like doing shark, and so I'm actually opening the book now and reading page 80 and 81. So trying to balance the chakras in any way that you can.
Yeah.
Checking the aura and psychic protection or shields around the client. Discussing psychic protection. Get the person to visualize themselves surrounded with white light. Understanding that the white light is that symbol of all love, including healing. Grounding of the energies is important. So because often the entity will actually enter when you're not grounded, or you're in that altered state of mind. And I'll actually say here, I have a friend whose partner has no entities when he's sober, but up to 30 when he's drunk. So it's like, if he's drunk, there's a full-on party happening there. It's not a pretty sight.
Well, I think it's funny. I always knew that. I mean, I was in the wine business for many years in the States and in France, and it's called spirits, white spirits, brown spirits. They're called spirits. I think there's a reason why they're called spirits.
Exactly. Yeah.
People don't understand that. Yes.
No. So if I drink this, what am I summoning up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially most, so many people drink it when they're sad or when they're depressed or when they're angry. And it's even worse. I mean, think about what you're attracting at that point.
Exactly. Because you're already in a slightly altered state of mind. Yeah. So, but also, think about referring to somebody who does actually work psychically, and with the spiritual intent.
Yeah.
And definitely don't play with it on your own.
Yeah. And I know there are a lot of people, there are a few people who actually work with this thing because these negative energies, because it's easy to get sucked into it yourself. Like you were talking about your friend who channeled someone through them, and you have to make sure that it's all completely gone, not just mostly gone.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in the book, I talk about several, there was a team of us that there was probably half a dozen of us, interchangeable, not always together at one time. And my daughter was part of that. And the first time that that ever happened, that, she was with us, and we're there, we're working on the person and focusing on the person, and she's just there to provide, some more energy into the group. And all of a sudden she's going like this to me, and she's pointing to her chest, and I looked at her and I said, "You've got it." And she said, "Yep."
It's stuck, yeah.
So she'd actually taken the energy from the person that we had been working with, who did not seem to have the capacity to actually interact with us or tell us what was going on.
Yeah.
And this energy had jumped from her to my daughter. So my daughter then channeled, was that source that I was then able to speak with another friend who could actually see what was going on, and loved my daughter dearly, and thought, well, we've got to fix this one. Not taking that home.
You're not getting in the car.
No.
Yeah.
And and there's that same dear friend, we were dealing with something, and it may have been the same one. I can't remember now, just off the top of my head. But my son had actually said, "Oh, you know, can I come too?" And straight away she said no. And it's like, you know, oh, and then she thought, well, I don't know where that came from. And it was one of the really nasty ones.
Yeah.
And she said she could actually feel an energy that was very similar to my son's amongst the group. And she said if he had been there, she didn't know whether she would have been able to control herself to not have done him harm.
Yeah.
Because that the similarity of the energy was so strong. So whether that was something from him from a, you know, past link or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
But she when we got home, she gave him the biggest hug. And was able to explain, you know, why he shouldn't be there.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. Yeah. Well, listen, Irene, I really appreciate your time this morning. Where can people get your book? Don't Try This at Home.
It's on Amazon. So the surname is Oram, so it's Irene Oram. I've got a couple of other books there, a couple of kids' books and a book of poetry as well, that are on there. The books I've written for my granddaughters, I figure I like to try and give them experiences rather than stuff.
Yeah, nice.
So, but this one in particular, I woke up one morning and I knew that I had some records of the clearings that we'd done. Yeah. And I bounded out of bed one morning and with just knowing that I had to write this book and that's what it had to be called. Don't Try This at Home.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, wow, okay, thanks for that. Yeah. And I'd actually written most of it in 1998 and not done anything with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's been sitting there for, you know, nearly half a century.
Yeah. And what's the best way for people to reach you?
Okay. Do
you still do clearings or?
I could, because I do have a group of people now that I could work with. Yeah. So that's fine. My email address is the Christian name and surname, so Irene Oram, all one word, at wn.com.au. Okay. Yeah. And apart from that, Facebook, and on Facebook, I'm Irene Plant Oram. And somebody hacked into me once, and so we had to change the profile, you know, as happens so often these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
well, that's great. Listen, I really appreciate your time today and looking forward to continue to work with you.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.